Hello, I'm Wendy Wilson, and I'd like to welcome you to another edition of Realizing Potential. Today I have with me in the studio a young lady who's a part of a family who is rooted in Southwest Georgia, particularly the Sylvester area. She is a part of the Polite family, but she's unique in addition to her matriculation pursuits, her higher ed pursuits. She did not do Albany State University, nonetheless did pursue a degree and did a change of pace and decided that she wanted to pursue her life's passion, which is the art of writing. She is none other than Trinka Polite. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. This has been in the making for a while. We've been talking about this. I'm so glad that we could finally get it scheduled.
Yes.
But yes, I was teasing you earlier, and you and I have talked about for years how they tried to ostracize you at one time in the family because you did not pursue Albany State University. You went where?
I went to Valdosta State, and I'm a Blazer.
How about that? And a proud one, too.
Yes, yes.
Yes, I work with your cousin, Sue Polite Solomon, and she is an avid Ram and a diehard Albany State alum. But at the end of the day, and I was just telling another guest, it's the importance of just pursuing a degree within itself and pursuing education.
Correct.
Yeah. What did you major in at Valdosta?
I majored in psychology.
Okay. Why that area?
I've always had a passion for helping people, and just looking at the different fields, that was the closest field to what I wanted to do, and I've always been fascinated by behavior.
Okay.
So I started out at Valdosta State, and I got my bachelor's there, and then I transferred to the University of West Georgia, which is in Carrollton, and I got my master's in psychology, and with an emphasis in humanistic transpersonal psychology.
Now tell us novice individuals out there, you had me at psychology, I understood that, but you added some other terms. How specific is that discipline, and what area does it cover, particularly as it relates to your master's?
Humanistic is basically a person-centered type psychology, which you would think with all psychologies is person-centered. But humanistic transpersonal focuses on you as the individual, whereas in traditional psychology, you have more of a clinical spin, and there's a category for this and a category for that, where in humanistic, it's about the individual. I look at you and your issues and your environment, and transpersonal is just looking at those things that you connect to beyond. Some may call it God or the Great Divine. Okay. But so that's basically the focus of it.
I'd love to hear your opinion on this, because I know oftentimes, particularly in the African American community, and we don't necessarily do a great job about taking care of our physical being, but it's certainly when it comes to the mind and our emotional and mental health, we really fall short of that. Why is it that we think we embrace that unfortunate attitude?
It probably goes back to traditions. If you look at our culture, I mean, we have always been, a close network, inner circle. Most of when we had to reach out or deal with a problem, we are truly those people. It takes a village to raise, a child. So we look within our community, we look within our church, and the whole, mentality of, just keep it in the family or keep it in. Okay. And there's a stigma, of course, attached to someone seeking counseling, like, oh, what's wrong with you? And, you hear those negative terms, like, crazy, or, they got a problem. So I think all that combined, our traditions and the stigma related to it, keeps us away.
Okay. Well, we want to help to reverse that. And I think that your book will certainly help to address that in some ways. But give some advice to those who might find themselves where they think they are challenged or have some challenges, whether it be emotionally and mentally, about trying to get that addressed.
I think you should be open to seeking counseling. It's not a stigma. It's what you are doing to take care of yourself. There are times when, we can go to mom or we can go to, best friend, but you're always going to be guarded because there's only so much you're going to share. Seeing a counselor kinds of breaks down that barrier, and you're free because, this person really doesn't know you. You're not going to see them on a regular basis. And you can just freely discuss every issue. So I think it's something you should definitely look into.
Absolutely, yeah. Because our mental state and being impacts every part of our world and our existence. So we want to make sure that that's healthy. Good. After the 6th day, what was the inspiration for this book?
Oh wow, it's the actual book is actually a journey in itself.
Okay.
I have been writing poetry since I was a teenager, and as I say in the introduction, I never set out to be a poet. Words would just come to me, and in certain situations, and I'm like, what are these words? And I would just write them down. It's like, oh wow. And so that always, it kept happening, and I amassed this whole collection of poetry and prose. And later in life, I was like, okay, how do I want to share this with the world? Because at first I held it close because releasing this would reveal something about myself.
Okay.
And that goes back to what you were just referring to. So I was sitting at home, and this is after I had experienced some hard things in my life. My world changed a lot from what I was used to, and I was seeking answers. And I was talking to a group of counselors as colleagues, because I am a counselor.
Yes.
And the term spiritual memoir came up, and I was like, "What is a spiritual memoir?" And this particular counselor used it with her clients to help them to track their, coming into themselves, their awakening to who they are.
Sure.
And it's like a light bulb went on. I'm like, that's what my poetry does.
Ah.
And so that was the idea for the book, so I could tell my spiritual memoir. Of course, I was pushed by my brothers and my mom and my uncles. My family has been super duper supportive.
Great.
And so,
inevitably, and you and I have talked about a couple of your works. We had lunch a couple months ago when you were sharing one of them with me. And I was struck by, because I said, you have to have a mirror or a scope on my life, because it really resonated with me, and I was, I've lived that. And I don't know if you hear that from other people when they hear your work. So although it was your spiritual journey, or it is your spiritual journey, so many other people can identify with it. And I think that's a sign of a good writer. Can I relate? Can I connect to the piece? Speak to a particular writer, or share with the viewers a writer that has impacted you, that they may be familiar with, and they don't necessarily have to be.
Well, of course, my number one is Maya Angelou.
Okay.
I started reading her work very young, and I love words, and I just found so much inspiration in her work, and I like that she writes from the perspective of what I call the good and the bad, the pretty and the ugly.
Yes.
She didn't cut corners in her writing, and she wrote about true, raw emotion, and that really inspired me, and that's what I wanted after the 6th day to be, and that's why I did self-publishing, because I did not want it edited. I wanted to present it to my readers as the raw emotion. And so you can be with it and make it your own. And like you said, do you hear your story in this piece?
Sure. She is always amazing, and Toni Morrison comes to mind also. In their ability for their words, they're not just words, they have a voice onto themselves, and greater meaning than we could have ever imagined them. And they're words that we may speak every day. But then, because of the way that they've written them and the way it's compiled, it has a greater meaning and certainly depth. So I can certainly understand why you selected her. But no, you mentioned self-publishing, and you said something that I probably didn't think that would have why you chose that route, but it makes sense. You didn't want to lose your voice or your identity in that process. A lot of people choose it for other reasons, one of which I hear oftentimes is that the industry is bombarded with people submitting their works, and then it's just who's selected and who's going to be the next greatest whomever. And so a lot of times people have given up on sharing their dreams, or in this case sharing their spiritual journey, so they took the route of self-publishing. Tell us a little bit about that process, what it involved. Was it a difficult effort, or you just stayed the course and made it happen?
Well, that too. I misstated the course, but a lot of research. I did a lot of research on different companies that you could work with, you know, to self-publish, and that's the number one thing that I would advise that you research, because when you self-publish, the companies also distribute your work for you. So you also want to look on that end. If I self-publish with this company, where is my work going to be seen? Okay. And the particular company I chose, they have a huge distribution network, Barnes & Noble, iBookstore, Amazon.com, and it's also available like if chains like Books A Million, or if the library want to order it. So it gives you a lot of options. So when you go on that route, make sure you check out the distribution networks. But it was a lot of research. I learned a lot. Indie authors, that is the term that's used for self-publishing, and you've heard of indie artists. So basically, just independent artists. It's a huge field now. I mean, a lot of indie authors have been picked up by mainstream. So if you start out in self-publishing, it doesn't mean that you have to abandon that, oh, I want to be with a bigger publishing house. A lot of indie authors are picked up by, you know, from my research, by bigger publishing houses.
Well, we certainly have evidence of that here. We have an alum from Albany State who is, I think he's on his 10th book, and one of the rights to the books has been sold to one of the movie industry outlets, and so he's done very well. So no, you don't have to stay contained in that particular area, but it's certainly a way to definitely get started. That's key. Yes. What I'd like for you to address, and then we want to delve into some of your favorite prose or pieces in here in the specific book, and if there's another one on the horizon. But speak to the importance of editing. I think, unfortunately, a lot of times, and people may do it just because it's economically feasible for them to do it, but they may find themselves partnering with a company that just will take it as is and may not assist, or they've not taken on any efforts of their own to get it properly edited. I'm looking at a book right now that a 12-year-old wrote. And although the message is great, it's a fictional piece, I'm so caught up, I find myself looking for the next error in it because somebody failed to do some proper editing. So speak to the importance of that, because your message can get lost.
It really can. And if you don't have a sharp product, you know, people are not going to look at it. So editing is very important, because in self-publishing, you're in charge of every process. So it does take dedication. It does take time. And I've joked, you know, that the editing took longer than writing the book.
I believe it. I believe it.
Because, and you want to, if you want to look at it, that's fine. But if you can invest in an editor, I strongly advise that. I did have someone look at mine and just, you know, red ink it and slice it, and still maintaining my voice.
Yes, that's the key. That's the key. But yeah, you're like, oh, I didn't know I needed to put a comma there. I tell everybody all the time, I can go to anybody's 4th grade class and sit next to a student all over again and learn that whole proper usage of comma implementation in writing. So yeah, that is critical. And again, you don't want your work to be diminished. And if it's not right, then people kind of second guess your ability. And all of us don't have all of the skill sets in various areas. You may be a good writer, but you may be a poor editor. And so it's important that you seek that assistance and that help with that. Let's go in a little more depth in terms of after the 6th day. You said it was your spiritual journey. Kind of give us some ideas, some teasers, if you will, so that we want to run out and purchase it, that we some of the nuggets that we'll find in here.
Okay. Well, I want to talk about the title a little bit more.
Sure.
After the 6th day is a reference to a verse in the Bible. I'm not saying I'm a Bible expert, but there's a verse in the Bible that says that male and female were created on the 6th day. And you know, there are scholars and there is research out there that says we were created on the 6th day. And I don't know if you've heard this song called We're Spiritual Beings Having a Human Experience. And all of that kind of culminated to this title. So it's like, this is what happens when I entered this world. This is all the things that I've witnessed, whether it happened in my life or it happened as a witness to somebody else's life. And the culminating part is that all of that is necessary for your journey. You know, we dismiss a lot of things that happen, or we beat ourselves up about it, and the message is you don't have to. It's necessary for you to become who you are.
Sure.
And so that's the message of the book. Some of my favorite pieces.
Yes, please.
One of my favorite pieces is Breathing Lessons, and that was inspired by my grandmothers. They were very spiritual people. Okay. And I was talking to my maternal grandmother, and she was telling me she had a dream because she always wondered what the spirit was. And she said that God revealed to her in a dream that our spirit is God's breath. And that, I mean, in my head, the words just started, and I was like, I'll be back, you know, and I just started writing.
Wow.
So that's one of my favorite pieces, is just to spend time with your breath. You know, have quiet time. You know, when you're riding in your car and you feel intense, just breathe. That's like one of the basic things, you know, calm you down and just to bring you back into the present, because we spend so much time worrying about the past and what I'm going to do in the future.
Right.
Just breathe.
We don't enjoy the moment or take advantage of it. To become centered again.
Right. And that's what Breathing Lessons tells you. Just
That's wonderful.
Live in the moment.
Yeah, we need that reminder. All to tape it on, tattoo it on my forehead when I look in the mirror. And that's so critical to our existence, because we look in 2 days have passed, a week has passed, and we've just been spinning in the moment, and you can't ever recapture that. So take time and become one with each moment, and regroup and reconnect. That's critical. I can imagine that is another one you have. Want to share?
The last poem in the book is what ordered the beginning of the book. The last poem in the book is called My Promise. And that was the moment I had my spiritual awakening. And it was like everything in that moment made the rest of my life make sense. Okay. I don't know if Oprah calls it an aha moment, but it was like in that moment, I understood every poem I wrote. I understood every problem I had. I understood why I lost people, why I lost things. And it was a wonderful experience, and it's probably like 3 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, that's when we usually have them. So we usually have it, and that's so important. And that we need to be welcoming and be prepared for that, and not dismiss it, because that's important. Sometimes we go through this entire journey not having a clue as to why we took each step or why we wound up in this particular place, but it's all purposeful and for us to connect, and I think that helps us to navigate our future too.
And it gives you a freedom.
It does.
Because once I mean, from my personal experience, once I released all of that, you know, and not, you know, holding it in, and for so many years, you know, I've counseled other people to do this, and then to do it, have that experience for myself. It was just so freeing, and I want that for everyone.
Excellent, excellent.
I want that.
Well, thank you for sharing this piece and having the courage. As I spoke of earlier, I think a lot of people have so many stories to share, but it's a courageous and a bold step to open up yourself, to give of yourself, to share your history, your story, and certainly in this case, your journey. But I'm sure it's been gratifying to you, because I'm sure you've touched so many people's lives, and people saying, this is me, or I know someone like this, or now I have a better understanding of why I went through or I endured a particular experience. Is there another one on the horizon? What's to follow after the 6th day?
Well, after the 6 days, it was basically an introduction. You know, it's, you know, this is Trinka Polite. This is my work. This is my gift to you. But it's like once I started writing, that's when I knew it was my passion. Okay. And I can't stop. So what's coming up next is actually every poem in that book has a story. You know, I can remember everything about the moment that I wrote each poem. And so the next book, I am going to actually tell you the story.
An explanation.
For some of because I have people, how did you know that? And I've had similar comments like you said, like, oh, I was feeling this way. How did you know that? But I won't tell them why I wrote it. Okay. Because I don't want mine, so I want it to be your story. Okay. So the next book, I will share some stories about the poems. And I've also started my draft on my first novel.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes,
You've
so
been busy. Yeah, that's good. So it's once we've unleashed Trinka, or you unleash Trinka Polite, yeah, here's what, and I know it will benefit the world.
Yes, and that's what I want to do.
I know. Well, we're so glad that you made that decision, that bold and courageous step to do so.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Please, when it's completed or near completion, come back and tell us where we are with that. Where can we get after the 6th day? I don't want to end without you sharing that.
After the 6th day, you can get it on my website, which is www.politejourney.com. Or you can go to Amazon.com, and it's available at Amazon.
Fantastic. I always tell authors that, the indie authors, that when you make it to Amazon, that's the beginning of making it big.
Yes.
Continued success. I'm so proud of you, and I'm glad that you've included me in a small bit in this process so that I can say, I know her. I know her.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. You're welcome. Know that you're welcome back anytime.
All right. Thanks.
Viewers, thank you so much for joining me for this edition of Realizing Potential. Don't wait. Don't hesitate. Go get your copy of After the 6th Day. You can get it on Amazon or the website that was mentioned. I'm Wendy Wilson, and I will see you next time.